Welcome, everyone, to the latest edition of the Cranky Curmudgeon's Corner. My name is Paul Thomas. Joining us is Judy Donegan, Samantha Finkenbinder, and Daniel Thomas. Now that the Russians have been driven back from the Kyiv region and seem to be deploying their forces roughly along the same lines they have occupied for 8 years, it appears that Putin's main strategic focus is now to kill as many innocent civilians as he can. We've seen Bucha. We've yet to see the extent of Mariupol. The question on this date, April 19th, 2022, is how long do you think this war will continue, and what outcome do you believe will result in bringing the war to an end? Dan, you and I haven't talked about this yet, so I'm going to let you go first here.
Well, I think that the war is existential for Vladimir Putin, not for the Russian people, but he needs it to maintain his grip on power. And if he loses it or is perceived to have lost it, then his rivals that are floating around, except maybe for Kim Jong-il, there is no one who is a supremely universally loved leader by his people. And I think the North Koreans, if they had the opportunity, would take Kim out. I think Putin is in a very similar position. He's staked his power on this war, and he expected it to be over in a couple of days. And that's not happening. But I think he's going to keep on going as long as he's able to.
Okay, so you say indefinitely then, basically.
Well, humans only live so long, and eventually he'll die. But as long as he's in charge, this is going to continue. He's not going to stop.
Okay. Sam, what do you think about that?
How long is it going to last? Well, I think as long as Putin's ego will last. I think up until the moment that he can no longer pour money or weaponry into Ukraine. You hate to be that person with a hot take, and I'm not. It's already been said. It's kind of a cut the head off the snake situation, really. And I think that's been proven before with dictatorships in this world. You don't end a dictatorship until the dictator themselves ends. And whatever you want to take from that, I'm not necessarily saying that Putin needs to die. I'm saying that his ideology perhaps needs to die. Maybe he needs to be imprisoned. How long is it going to last? I could see it lasting certainly the rest of this year. This is not a short war, unless something catastrophic happens. And by that I mean if nukes are pulled into play. Putin is not the type of person to back down. You don't come from a low-level KGB agent to where he is and back down from this. And certainly we can see what he did in Chechnya years ago and see the kind of brutality that happened there. And we don't even know the level of brutality because we didn't have the internet and the social media we have now. We have so much news out of Ukraine now that is visible on social media that was not visible during the Chechen War, and the Georgian War even. So what we're looking at now is full-scale terrorism, and Putin's endorsing it in Bucha and Mariupol. And as I understand it, they had backed off Kyiv, but as I understand it now, they may be re-entering Kyiv.
I think they're sending cruise missiles into Kyiv.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not like they've reined it in. And I think it's important to remember that Russia has how many times more the firepower of Ukraine? I'm not exactly sure now with the lethal aid they've gotten, what the balance there is, what the ratio is. But Russia certainly had more manpower and more firepower to begin with. How do I see it ending? I think it's, again, cut the head off the snake, and maybe it will end.
So it won't end as long as Putin is a participant in the Russian political system.
That's how I personally see it. Yes.
Okay, Judy, Dan, and Sam has kind of like a dire look at this. What's your look at it?
Well, mine is equally dire. I think I agree with them on almost everything they've said. When this started, coincidentally, I was reading The Guns of August, which is Barbara Tuchman's history of the first month of World War I. And her view of the whole thing was that leaders on all sides were miscalculating what was going on. The Kaiser wanted to get to France. He thought he'd go marching through Belgium, which was illegal because it was a neutral country. But of course, they went into Belgium thinking that the Belgians would not fight back, and they did vigorously. So the whole thing was, her thesis seems to be that the First World War, which lasted 4 years and countless lives and destruction in Europe, was caused just by blundering leaders, egotistical, egocentric, not listening to advice that was coming, in that case, from the field. So that put me in a, then Putin marched into Ukraine as I was reading this. So my view, I think, has been colored by that all along. I'm very pessimistic about how it turns out, how much tragedy will be incurred. And I guess we can only hope that it doesn't spread.
I'm kind of seeing that the way that things are deploying now, as of this week, kind of like along the lines of World War I, where you have these huge artillery exchanges. If we do supply the Ukrainians with the kind of heavy artillery that they've been asking for, Russia already has the tanks and the cruise missiles and the big guns, and they're shooting them, and that could go for a long time.